Welcome to What's in the Box episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna,
And I'm Eric.
and today we have a double feature episode for you. We're discussing The Omen, not only the book, but also the movie.
Yeah, and we
Um,
decided to do that because the book is a novelization. So
yeah,
this isn't a case. This is the first time we've had this situation where the book came after, or I guess they may have released it before the movie came out, which would be a good marketing ploy. But
yeah,
it's all based on the same material. So we figured instead of trying to break through two episodes, we could kind of smush it all together.
yeah. And it's funny because the copyright on the copy that I have of the book says actually copyrighted to 20th Century Fox Film
Yeah.
Corporation. It doesn't say copyrighted to David Seltzer. So I thought that was interesting.
I wonder if all novelizations do that. I don't know. I'd have to go and dig them up and look because
Yeah, I've actually never read a novelization. So
I was a big fan of novelizations when I was a kid. If I liked a movie, my mom would find the book and give it to me. Sometimes you get a lot of information, backstory and stuff, and sometimes it's exactly the same. So, but
yeah.
but I
And
always
there
enjoyed reading them when I was younger.
yeah, and there is a difference between a novel that a movie is based off of and a novelization of a movie. Like I believe Halloween movies have novelizations made out of them.
Yeah, because the original material is the movie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it
but
wouldn't be a case like Nightbreed and Cabal, because
right.
Cabal was written and then a movie was created based off of that book. So that's a nice, that's something that's important to point out that there is a difference between novelizations of movies and books that movies were based on. But I've not, like I said, I never have read a novelization. Um, it never really interested me to read novelizations of a book. I mean, of a movie, especially if I've seen it. So I'm like, why am I going to read the book of what I just saw? And which is weird because I'm all for reading a book and then seeing the movie that was based off of it, like, The Exorcist or Cabal, like I had said, or, things like that.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, but many times when you read the novelization, like I said, you're not going to get too much information other than what's on the screen.
yeah,
Occasionally, you'll get a little deep dive into some of the characters' thoughts. Things that maybe you didn't get in the movie. Um, and I think that happened in this case
hmm
because there are a lot of differences in this novelization. Now, something else that doesn't happen a lot, and this may be unique to the whole process. The guy who wrote the script for 20th Century Fox is also the guy that did the novelization.
yeah,
So usually you're just people just get hired to write, just some random person does it. So
yeah.
so they
Here's
don't
my
know.
here's my book. Make a movie script out of it. You know.
Oh, no, no, the other way around. Here's the
Oh,
script. Go write a book
write a
and you
book.
need to
Yeah,
follow this thing. And so the guy didn't have anything to do with the original idea. He didn't have anything to do with it, but David Seltzer did. So I think we get that um, a taste of that as we read this novelization. And I think it ended up making it a very good read.
yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was great. Um, it was very entertaining. It kept me turning the pages. I mean, it's not very long. It's kind of a small book.
Mhm.
Um, but I really enjoyed it. Even though there were a lot of parts of there was the scene where Thorne was researching those Bibles and the interpretations, I think he called them, of the passages in the Bible. I found that pretty interesting because
Yeah,
it
the way
was
that the guy did it was pretty. It was well done. It wasn't like The Exorcist, where it felt like
right.
it didn't feel like information dumps. Everything was smoothly tied in. Now, I did, if I remember correctly, I had the Kindle version, and there's a foreword by the author. Did your book have that foreword?
I No, there is no forward.
So, if I remember correctly, in the foreword, the
Oh, there's a
author's
preface. I don't know.
no, no, this
Um,
would be a
yeah. So
complete
yeah,
thing. And he says they came to me and said, "We want you to write something in the vein of The Exorcist, or all the big supernatural things, the things that we've been talking about." Those kind of things were really popping at the time. And so he deep dived a whole bunch of this information. So I think a lot of the research he did to come up with the idea for the story, he just incorporated in the story. And he did a really good job of laying out his case and making it all interesting and also believable.
Yep, and not over inundating you with
Right.
religious texts and,
Oh, and I thought that was funny too for this idea. I mean, it could have been a very religious book. It could
hmm
also have been a very anti-religious book, and yet he toes the line perfectly. I didn't, because some of the other ones we've read came across as very anti-religious, or at least the authors themselves. They were either struggling with their religious beliefs, or they were outright attacking some of the religious things going on. A lot of push for the science versus the
right.
faith. And in this one, it felt like he was just kind of strolling right down the middle of the road,
Yep,
and he would pick a little over here and a little over there, and he was just giving us a good story. And at no point was he coming across as like disbelief or questioning things. And he also wasn't trying to sell it. You know what I mean? It
right,
wasn't like this is the truth as I see it or anything like that. He was just kind of giving us the information and letting the characters almost react like you would think most normal people would react. Because we
right,
had that problem too with The Exorcist. We kept talking about the mom not reacting in a believable way.
right.
But
Yeah.
I thought all the characters did really. And again, we're talking about the movie and the book, and if I remember correctly, everything on the and as I was telling you earlier, I read a note saying that the guy wrote the script and then he gave it to the director, who was Richard Donner, which I thought was pretty cool. The guy that did Superman and Lethal Weapon
Yep.
and all that. And so his first big movie in Hollywood, I think, is The Omen, which I thought was kind of cool. And it also shows you a shift in Hollywood, and it lines up with The Exorcist and Amityville Horror, where you have the serious horror starting to be taken, uh, you know, front and center in the theater instead of it being all, B horror and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, Richard Donner told the writer, I don't want any of the overtly religious stuff in the screenplay. We want there to always be a sense of doubt that maybe they're not really experiencing what they think they're experiencing, which I thought was kind of a clever way to do it in the movie. But I was happy that in the book he really does focus and give us all that information.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think in the movie there was only one part where Jennings and him were in Rome, where they brought out the Bible and were, reading passages from it.
I thought that was kind
And
of weird the way
yeah,
they set it up in the book.
yeah. So that was really the only part where a in-depth discussion or whatever of religion came in. Whereas in the book, there was that whole practically a chapter, I guess, of Thorne, reading these religious texts, which I didn't mind.
Yeah, no, he did that really well. And then when they discuss it in the back of the taxi in the book, which my biggest problem in the book was that they hired a taxi to do all this crazy stuff. And in the movie, they rented a car.
Yep.
And that made more sense. The stuff they were doing is kind of shady. And I
Yeah.
was shocked that they would have an eyewitness with them the whole time. So,
Yeah. Especially where if they're like, um, that I think they mentioned in the book that they checked in under assumed names or whatever. And
yeah, I think after they got attacked by the dogs, they
yeah.
went to the hospital and he used fake names and
Yeah.
they lied what they were doing.
hmm
And by that time, Thorne is broken.
Yep.
His mind's he's gone for a little bit, kind of outside his body. And so Jennings is taking care of everything. But
Yep.
um, yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. Now, did you did you enjoy the casting? Did you think they did a good job casting the characters? Now, what order did you do the project in?
I did the book
Okay.
and then I did the movie.
And I did half the book, then the movie, and then I finished the book. Um, so I I almost think I should have done it the book and then like you did.
Right.
But then life got in the way. So, uh, but as I read it and then I watched the movie, and I'd seen the movie before, and I've seen both versions of the movie. I've seen the original and I saw the remake. Um, I thought I thought Gregory Peck was good, but doesn't he feel way too old
He
after you read the
definitely
book?
does. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching the movie. I'm like, he just looks too old for that part.
And they're talking about how he's fast tracking towards the White House. And I understand that 60, especially in the 70s, may not have been considered old for the president, but he's not the president. He's fast tracking and he's doing this stuff that I was thinking he needs to be like 40 at the oldest, late
Yeah.
30s. And so I think that in the remake, because live isn't it oh, now I can't. Lee Shaffer, I think is the name of the guy that plays him in the remake 2006. The guy that was Sabretooth in the Wolverine movie.
Oh
He
yeah, yeah.
he
Yeah, Leave Schreiber.
yeah, he plays him, and I think he actually seemed more believable age-wise.
Yeah.
And but the whole as you're reading it, because I also felt like the woman comes across as very young in the book too. Not
Yeah.
very young, but in her 30s. And I thought she was really good in the movie, and I thought Gregory Peck was good in the movie too. But I mean, he's like an established. It's not like and that's the other thing I think is funny. I mean, movies like this wouldn't have got people like Gregory Peck.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, the one thing I picked up on between the book and the movie is with Catherine. So in the book, when you're first introduced to Catherine, he talks about her as being this maybe emotionally fragile person. He describes that he found her sitting, I think, at her vanity, cutting her fingertips with scissors. Um, but in the movie, that her character is so not assertive, but she's just the typical politician's wife. You don't see any hint that she may have anything going on psychologically until the movie progresses. Basically until you find out that she's pregnant.
yeah.
Um,
Now they did mention at the very beginning when he's flying back into Rome, he has that one line that says, "Losing the baby is going to crush her." But that to me feels like any mother. You know what I
yeah,
mean? In the
yeah,
book, they hammer if she loses this baby again, another baby, because I guess they tried a couple times, that this wasn't just gonna crush her, this was gonna end her.
yeah,
And so you're right, they did not do a good job of making us believe that she's this fragile, um, you know, mess of a person.
right,
And the relationship in the book is a lot different than in the movie. Like at no point did you ever feel like Gregory Peck was avoiding her or hiding from her or
right.
upset with her or her the way she was. In the book, he disappears for days at a time doing his job to try and stay away from her because he thinks that she's, because the whole situation at the house is tense.
Yeah, exactly. And there was, it jumped right to the part where he's like, I'm not going. It's not a good time to leave. I think that's like after the nanny dies or whatever. Um, but you're right. He's always off going here. I think in the very beginning when they first moved to Hereford, he mentioned about going to see the president because I remember her saying like, say, give my regards to the first lady or something like that. Um, so to me, I took that as he was getting ready to go on a trip or something. But yeah, like,
Yeah. Oh, in the movie?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like really vague. Because I mean, they have a huge section of the book where his staff is yelling at him for canceling.
yep,
His wife and him are fighting over the fact that he may or may not have to have sex with concubines, which I thought
yep,
was a very odd point of view in the 70s. I was like, well, I
yeah,
guess it's the 70s, but I thought, well, this is the weirdest, and the fact that the way they handled it, the way they talked about it made me feel like it made me feel like the writer had read some article recently when he wrote the thing and he slid it in there. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, their relationship is I don't want to say rocky, but it's not as tight as it's portrayed uh, in the movie. And in the movie, he's very supportive of everything. And even when he questions her, it's always in this light of like, what he's hoping that whatever the reason she's doing whatever it is because of, what's best for her.
Right.
It's never about his career. It's never about any of that stuff. Um, in the book, it's all about his career
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. But at the same time, you do get the sense that he does love her.
Right.
It's not like this isn't like a staged marriage or something in that way where he, to she comes across that sometimes where she whines a lot in the book. Why
Yeah.
is this happening to us? We're perfect people, aren't we good people? That kind of thing. And I don't know if maybe that's the underlying theme of the writer is that he's that evil happens to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
Um, I don't know, but I thought she was really good in it. I still think she's too old.
Yeah. I think they both were.
I don't recognize her. I'm sure she's very famous, but I'm wondering if she was in a ton of stuff at the time. Um, you know, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how she got cast in this picture.
It's
And
probably a
what
friend of a friend, you know.
yeah, I know. What I meant to look. I meant to look to see the order of all the movies because I think Exorcist came out in '74, right? And then, or maybe '75. So this is going to be like right on the end of Exorcist, but it's going to be before Amityville, I think.
Yeah, because this was 76.
Right. So obviously enough movies came out that were like The Exorcist that 20th Century Fox wanted their own
Yeah.
satanic movie. Um, but I'm trying to I'd love to go back and do a deep dive on just the 70s and the cinema and how they do, these movies and how they came because all of these movies are talked about in like an Oscar way, which you
Yeah.
don't really wouldn't expect because horror movies are never we went, before this time period, horror movies are treated as B movie slop for kids. And then from the 80s on, it's just slasher movies and it's, you know, over the top kind of things. Nobody gave horror movies any kind of respect.
Right.
Um, so it's weird that there's this little sliver in the 70s where horror's like treated on equal footing as everything else. It's just really strange.
And of course, we got the star, Damien.
So kid's creepy. So they
Yeah.
win. They got a creepy kid. And from what I
Yes.
understand, he's a blonde in real life. So they dyed his hair black. Um, and I read a thing saying that to get the part, they had a whole bunch of kids and they tried to do the scene in the car before they get to the church.
Oh,
Apparently,
right.
he freaked out the most, and that's why Donner picked him because he really dove in. He really gave that, and that's a really cool scene too. And I think the movie handled it. No, okay, so I thought the movie handled it better as the had the tension and the right parental reaction.
Hmm.
You could really feel both the mother and father's stress of the child having such a reaction to going to the church, in the
Yeah.
car. But I thought the book did a much better job of the damage done to the mother.
I was just
Because
going to say that. I'm like, she got way more damage in the book because in the movie, she's at a mirror and she's like, oh, it'll be fine tomorrow.
yeah,
She just got like this little bruise on her face, you know?
and how many parents haven't been accidentally whacked by their kid, got a
Right.
little bruise or something, and you don't think about it. In the book, he beats the living tar out of her
Yep.
to the point where one of her eyes is swollen shut.
Hmm.
That immediately should send off warning bells, and I think it does slowly start. It does for her because at that point, from that point on, she's really cautious around him, even though she's trying to have more time and spend more time with them. But you can tell that she's already starting to think. That's when she's, right before she goes to psychiatrist and all that stuff. But she's
Yeah.
already starting to think that this kid isn't hers, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah. And then we have Chessa.
Oh,
Um,
and I guess we should explain that too. I mean, we're just acting like no big deal. But the beginning of this thing, she's in Rome. I guess he was a diplomat to Rome. She's having the baby. Baby dies, but nobody tells the mom. Then dad gets there and he's like, she's going to be devastated, crushed. And the guy, some random priest goes, oh, by the way, we have an extra baby that was just
yeah,
born.
we have an
Just
extra.
have one on the shelf. Come on over,
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, and I get why he did what he did, because in the book, she's
She's
going
very
to,
fragile. Yeah.
right, this is going to be the thing that could quite possibly end his marriage, is going to end his relationship with his wife, and could derail his political aspirations. He can't have this. This is, if his wife goes off the deep end, that could end up causing issues. So I think, and plus, I think he's overcome with grief as well.
Yeah.
You don't spend that much time preparing for a baby and then not have all that love and all that stuff that you want to share with that life that's coming. And so I could see how he could easily transfer that to this baby, because you would think neutral. You're not thinking antichrist. I
Right.
mean, if you're immediately thinking, yes, this is the antichrist, then maybe you pass. But
Right.
so I totally get why, but then so they have the kid, and then they do that jump ahead 4 years. So we
Yeah.
miss out all that stuff. There could have been a ton of information that leads us to believe that the mother's, really not connecting with the baby. We don't know anything about, did they get into like the feeding or any of that stuff with the baby?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that they could have done to make it so that it looked like the baby wasn't connecting with the mother.
Yeah. And that's another thing they didn't do in the movie. Um, it was the child more connecting, or I should say, with Catherine disconnecting from Damien. In the book, it's quite clear that she's disconnected.
Yeah, the only thing you get in the movie is she's short, but she's short with everyone. So
Yeah.
you couldn't blame it directly on the child, but you could tell that she's getting a little frazzled. But
Right.
yeah, and does she say that to him, to the husband, that I need to spend more time with them? I don't feel like, no, I don't think so. I don't even think she mentions it in the movie. I think she just is like,
Yeah.
we're gonna, but in the book she does. She makes a conscious effort. She sends the nanny away, the second
Yep.
nanny, and tries to spend time with the kid. And all that ends up doing is reinforcing her original belief that there's something wrong.
Right. Right. And um, I like the discussion that they had in the book about it's more Catherine saying it, that why did we have a child? And basically she was like, I think this came after she discovered she was pregnant. Um,
Yeah,
that we're supposed to have a child. Basically,
they
you
were the
can't.
perfect couple, and they needed to be the perfect family.
Right, right. And which played into her whole disconnect from Damien. So I think that would have, if you're watching the movie, until you get later on in the movie, they're 100% the perfect family,
Mhm.
and it's not the way it is in the book.
Didn't you also get the feeling by the way that they wrote the original, the very opening sequence, about how crushed you would be if something happened to the baby, and also some of the, like, how protective and overbearing she was with the first nanny, that originally she did want a child,
Yeah,
and then it felt like later, because she didn't succeed with what she thought motherhood should be for her, then all of a sudden she's like, well, maybe we didn't really want this kid, maybe I just did this to make you happy. And
right.
I feel like the failure of her not connecting with the kid was the thing that was really crushing her in the book. You don't really feel that at all in the
In the
and
movie.
and
Yeah,
and then right here, when this nanny kills herself, she kills herself after the mom's short with her. In the movie, you don't get any feeling that affected the mother at all. In the book, it's a driving force. So it allows the other nanny to get her claws deeper into Damien, because
yeah,
the mother's constantly fearful that she is the reason the first one killed herself.
yeah. And I mean, I could kind of see it in the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
there's that scene where she kind of tells her, "I'll take over from here."
yeah. I
But
just was kind of bummed that they didn't have Chessa in the clown costume and they didn't have the fortune teller.
yeah, I know, it wasn't that kind of weird, and
Yeah.
they skip. Well, and here's, well, see, the clown costume makes no, it doesn't tie into the other thing. I could see having the fortune teller might break the director's rule of not having the spiritual stuff in the thing,
Yeah, maybe.
because in the movie we find out later, that Damon's born of a jackal, and so that means, I guess that's how the Antichrist is supposed to be. He's supposed to be birthed from a jackal, and then uh, and then we find the dead baby and all that stuff. So, and they're shocked. But in the book, they told him like 3 times,
Yeah.
"Kid's born of a jackal, born of a jackal." You got this, and they keep telling him, and he keeps acting like, well, this is, which of course I think most people would. This is insanity, but
Right.
um, it's just kind of weird, the way they in the book. I mean, he has the road led, laid out for him,
Yeah.
and in the book, he no, in the book he has it laid out for him, and then in the movie he has to come to all the decisions or discover everything.
Right. Yeah. And then we got Mrs. Blaylock.
Who
Um,
did you read her like this? I thought,
I totally did not,
yeah.
because she was in the book, she was a big woman.
Hmm.
She was kind of boisterous and a little bit vulgar, because one of the first things she said to to Thorne and Catherine was about tits.
Right.
Because she's like, "Oh, you can't. Um,
It was like
if
some
they
sort
have,
of,
yeah, if they have nice tits, they're not going to be a good nanny or something like that." I don't remember
yeah.
the exact phrase. And then she was like, "Oh, mine are all big and saggy," you know?
And I think you're saying young kids couldn't handle the stress as
Yeah,
an older. What? But you know who I pictured? I pictured. Do you watch? Have you seen Harry Potter?
yeah,
Okay, you remember the teacher that had the things that she pull out the pots and they'd scream and then she put them back?
yes,
That's who I pictured. She's
yeah,
also in a movie called Ed and His Dead Mother, where she plays a zombie mother. It's a funny movie with Steve Buscemi. But she's exactly kind of what I pictured while I was reading it. And so, you read halfway and then I see the movie and I'm like, well, this doesn't match up at all.
yeah.
Uh,
She's like the movie Mrs. Blaylock. She's very somber. She's very reserved.
mhm.
Um, still has that manipulative vibe, because in
Yeah.
both the book and the movie, she was very manipulative towards the parents. Like with the dog, she's like, "Oh, but Damien loves the dog,"
Yeah,
or
she's very argumentative and very what is she, I mean, they're the help, but she didn't come across as the help.
yeah, and that was done, similarly in both the book and the movie. She just asserted herself, or inserted herself right
Hmm.
into the dynamics of the family as kind of like a lead,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I didn't put the pictures of them because they're really not in the movie at all. But there's another family, a wife and a husband. I wrote the names down, and now my notes are all over the place. Starts with an H. The Hawthorns, maybe. The husband's is the driver, and the
Oh, the
wife is like
Hortons,
the
Hortons,
Hortons.
Hortons.
Right. So there's
Yes.
another who would be higher. I would assume they would be higher on the whatever
Yeah.
servant pyramid. They should
And
be the
this,
top dogs. They were there first. They're part of the household. They were inherited by this whoever the ambassador is gets this couple,
right.
and
And I'm,
she drove them out within a matter of weeks. It feels like
yeah,
in a
I'm
very
trying to
odd
find
way
the
too.
name, because now it's going to drive me insane
Yeah, I know.
that
Which
I don't remember.
the Hortons.
Hortons. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
because Mr. Horton is very suspicious of Mrs. Blaylock.
yeah. And he
And
just
she
doesn't,
and she talks about and he talks about it. And they never say a word to the you know, the Jennings, is that the main characters?
the
I'm trying
Thorns.
the Thorns.
Yeah.
And they
But
never
in
says a
the,
word to the Thorns.
yeah, but in the book, he does.
Yeah, and he gets a little and we get a little bit more behind the scenes of them discussing about maybe we need to leave. There's something weird going on. But in the movie, you get nothing. And then one
Yeah.
day he goes and says something to Miss Blaylock, and she's like, "Oh, they just left.
Yeah.
They're just gone."
Yeah.
That's like, I don't think that's how this works. But, at the same time, he's so frazzled by that point. His wife's in the hospital. He thinks there's a chance his kid is something other than his kid, which he already knows it's technically not his child. But I mean, he's
Yeah.
thinking it's something more than a kid. He's got the other guy in his ear constantly gnawing on him. Hey, there's something going on here. The priest has died. So I
Yeah.
guess I get it, but at the same
Yeah.
time, they just met this lady and he's leaving the kid with her.
Yeah.
That's
So,
very
and the
odd.
funny, yeah, I love the part where they're like, "Oh, the agency sent you. Okay, go on up and see our kid." And then they're like, "Wait a minute. How did you get here?" Like,
Yeah,
when
then
she
you
said when she said the agency sent me, they almost didn't eat both in the book and the movie. They were like, "What agency?"
and see, I'm wondering if there must be some sort of nanny union kind of thing. I'm
Yeah,
thinking maybe that's what it is over there, and they just and as Americans, somebody from the other country says, "Oh, this happened," these people sent me, and they're thinking, "Oh, well, maybe they do that here." And yeah, you're right though, but it's your kid. How are you not deep diving more? But then later it
and you're a
does,
politician.
right. But it does say that she called the agency and verified. And they
Yeah,
said they didn't have record of it, but the lady would have had the records, is on vacation or something. So
yeah,
at
yeah,
least in
yeah,
the book they cleaned it up.
yeah,
But in the movie, they're just like, oh, okay, this is cool. They kind of high five and wander off while
yep,
the lady meets the kid by herself. No supervision. It's like you gotta love the 70s.
yeah,
No supervision. Yeah, she could have been putting that kid in a basket and hopping out the window. We would, and that could have been its
right,
own movie right there.
right, yeah. And Jennings, I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah,
The actor who played Jennings, I don't know. He just didn't seem to fit what I had in my mind. First of all, I didn't really have in my mind that he was British in the book for some reason. Maybe I was just reading it that he was an American. Um, so it kind of threw me off where they had like this British actor, and I really didn't picture him as looking like this. So the whole
I
Jennings, he looks like a, and I don't even remember the name of the actual actor, but he looks like he should be on tour with the Rolling Stones or something.
this guy right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from I know Time Bandits for sure. He plays the bad guy in that. He's a
Oh my
famous
God,
actor,
that's a great movie. I love that movie. That's where he's
but
from.
so I'm thinking Jennings from the movie was handled differently because this guy was cast.
Yeah.
Because when I read him in the book, I mean he comes across as a slob, and I kind of felt like he might have been fat, but they didn't really go to the lengths to suggest that just his habits and the way he kept his appearance. I got the idea that he was kind of a big fat slob,
Yeah. And
and he
he
was
was,
kind of in your business, and he was always causing trouble, and he was starting fights with everybody. And
yeah. Another, the one thing I did not like was that they changed the meeting between Thorne and Jennings in the movie, or maybe they changed it in the book. I don't know. But in the book, it was more of a confrontation. Thorne knocked the camera out of his hand.
yeah,
In the movie, he kind of just like bumped into him and he dropped his camera. And he's
right.
like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, and you could tell he was, because he had some the situations with the family, so he was kind of in a different headspace as he's trying to get by everybody taking his picture, and he bumps into him, drops the camera. In the book, he's like really pissed, he's angry, and he's confrontational,
Yeah.
and then the paparazzi shows up and basically gives him a target for that anger, and he takes it out on Jennings,
Yep.
which is just like you're saying. And so it's like totally and you the whole time in this movie, they're like buddies.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, you get those little bits of confrontation. But see, and I felt like, and I don't know if you did either, it starts off with him being kind of a jerky paparazzi, and then he kind of turns a little bit, and then he starts to try and buddy up. But the
Right.
whole time, it's never buddy up for betrayal. Because remember, at the beginning, he wanted to prove that this poster boy ambassador was just like he was, a
Yep.
scumbag. And so that's what he was trying to take pictures of. But
Mm-hmm.
he loses that within 50 pages, and then he's just him again. I mean, he's just not like that. He's not vindictive. He's not angry.
Yeah.
He's more
And he's
curious, I
not
guess.
even, yeah, and he's not even out to get the perfect shot either anymore.
Yeah. And so that's it. So what they did, they presented us with this character in the book, and they've made him, you know, X. And then after halfway through it, they just turned him to Y, and then they don't even explain it.
Right.
And so I think they handled it better in the movie as a character, just from A to Z. He follows an arc. when he gets upset, when he gets angry at the end, he's angry because he's being excluded,
Mm-hmm.
and he's angry because he's scared because he's marked as well.
Yep.
Um, but in the book, he has these little. I mean, like when they had in the book when he goes and he gets the two prostitutes.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
bring
like
that up.
completely, totally out of character from the Jennings from the movie. You would
Yeah.
never have thought that. And also, and then it ties it in. Is that him trying to prove that the Senate or the ambassador is a dirtbag like him? You know, like
Yep.
he's like, oh, he has the same carnal, feelings, and he's gonna do, he's gonna be all this stuff like I'm going to, and then he walks away. You would think that would have angered him more instead of him just kind of playing it off as if, well, I tried and you didn't go for it or whatever. So
Yeah.
I felt like they mishandled the writer mishandled the character in the book, 30% of the time,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the time it felt like it was a good character to kind of drive the narrative, and also it was really good because in the movie he's a comrade. In the
Yep.
book, by the end, um, he feels like he set up the ambassador because he has that line where he goes, you've been behind everything. When he's
Yep.
finally decided that he needs to kill the child, and then he turns his anger on to Jennings and saying, well, maybe I don't need to kill the kid because in the truth, or in the end, the truth is that you're just lying to me. And this is all
Yeah.
set up. You found the guy, you found the grave site, you found the story, you showed me the pictures. Maybe
Yep.
this is all something you've done, which I assume is what the director was kind of going for. But he doesn't do that at all in the movie.
Yeah. Yep. They're kind of like friends to the end.
Yeah, except for the very end, which had
Yeah.
a really cool scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I should go back because that's one of the things. Um, I liked how they handled his death in the movie. I thought that was kind of cool, but I was kind of hoping for the death in the book because I
yeah,
think because in the book isn't the glass like hanging from a crane or something and it
yeah, and I think
drops.
it comes down and swings across or something, right?
Yeah.
Because it's got to go through his neck.
Yeah.
It's got to go through his head. So I think it swings into him. But he did say a guillotine. So maybe he was bent over and it
Yeah.
guillotined straight down. Yeah, I think that's what it did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think
so
he was gathering up the knives.
right. Which would have made more sense. It would make a lot more sense than a truck coming backwards and the glass being laying flat because they don't lay flat. They load them in those things that keep them upright.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and you don't hear the crunching
mhm.
of like he had totally enough time to get up. He could have really like
Same with the priest.
yeah, like you couldn't hear the truck coming. Like it was on gravel. It was
Yeah,
crunching.
they
There
made
was
a
no like other noise going on.
right, and I guess he was just thinking, and they had some construction, so maybe he's thinking it's just construction noise. But yeah, he could have got away, or at
Yeah.
least attempted to. I mean, he basically looks up and then heads off. Now I thought the same thing with the priest when he's running
Yeah.
towards the church. I like the way they handle it in the movie better than the book. I didn't
Yeah.
like the fact that it was some teacher that dropped it because in the book, then you get the feeling that all of this is human, and then you're supposed to feel like, oh, it's been nudged by the devil or whatever evil to protect the child. That's what's going on. I mean, they make it obvious in the movie, which is kind of weird when you think about what Donner was requesting. But that whole scene where the weather picks up, the wind is whipping, there's lightning crashing all around him. He
Yeah.
runs towards a church and it hits that. I guess it's a lightning rod at the
Yeah.
top, or it's
I
the
I wasn't
maybe it's a
sure.
cross, a point of the some sort of decorative spear, which we all should have on our houses, and it
Yeah.
gets nailed, and then it comes down and spears the guy, and
Yep.
and it felt like the Austin Powers when the guy gets run over by the steamroller, and the guy's
Yeah.
like, and the other dude's like, you have plenty of time, you can get out of the way, just step to the side, nothing will happen, and it squishes him. It kind of
Yeah.
had that feel to it. I felt like, I mean, he could have easily got, I guess maybe he's
Yeah.
paralyzed with fear, but I just thought that was kind of a funny,
Yeah.
funny thing. It would have been much better just to have it come out of nowhere and
Yep.
pin him to the ground,
Yeah, and then we have Bugenhagen.
which I thought was such a waste of a cool character.
Yeah.
They could have had so much. They could have done so much with this guy. and they basically make him a milk toast and stick him somewhere. They
Yep.
he exists simply to drive to hand the weapon to the guy.
Yep.
Which actually, I mean, I guess he has to tell him to kill him on holy ground, but I mean,
And
really,
and the knives had to go in a certain formation.
yeah. See, and that was the other thing I didn't quite grasp. So all the knives were necessary, right, to kill the
Yep.
kid, all seven,
Yep.
right? Okay,
Hmm.
because it's seven is the perfect number, and that's the number of Christ, and six is the number of the devil and evil and all that. I
Yeah,
think
and I
they
couldn't
said that in the book.
yeah, and I couldn't quite like grasp what they were saying in the book because he was like telling him in like, oh, this one has to go this way, and
I'll be
so it
honest,
didn't.
I skimmed past that when he was going over the diagram, so I didn't get it.
Yeah. And then the movie, they of course didn't go over it
Yeah, they
that
just cut right.
close. Yeah. So, and then isn't don't in the movie doesn't in the movie he loses one because he uses one to kill her. And I remember thinking maybe it was in the
No,
book. I'm
that was
like,
a fork.
right, right, okay.
Because in the
Uh,
in the book, he drives them into her skull. But in
Right,
the
in her
in the
temples.
movie, it makes 10 times more sense that he gets her in the neck. Because the amount of force necessary to get it into and stick in your temple, that's a lot. And by that
Yeah.
time, he's lost in the book, of course. And here's something they did in the book perfectly, and they did not address in the movie, which they rarely do. The damage that man took,
Yeah.
he was by the end dying anyways, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And he
agree.
was bleeding. Other Jennings kept saying we gotta go to the doctor, and he's like, no, I'll go when I'm done with this thing. But
Yeah.
he's losing blood. He's probably infected with stuff.
Yeah.
He's got all these injuries. I thought they handled it really good in the book because in the book he has trouble with the lady because of that when she attacks the nanny, and he has
Yeah, because
trouble picking up and fighting the kid off. That's the other thing they did really well. Kid actually fights for his life in the book and just
yeah.
sits there in the
Yeah. Yeah, and in the book Thorn got impaled on the fence in his armpit. And in the
yeah.
movie he kind of just got it in the arm.
Yeah, it looked like a right, like maybe in the fleshy part right here, and he's kind of hitting
Yeah.
there, but it almost kind of looked like it was between the two, and so it's hard to tell for sure. And then I thought they did a good job of the dogs too, because in the book they're all German shepherds, but they're other than the main one with Damien, the other ones they're like you know rabid and they're filthy and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I love that they I and maybe this is why people are scared of Rottweilers. Maybe this helped with that, but they picked the Rottweilers, but they just made them dogs,
Yeah.
and so that's 10 times scarier than a pack of wild. There you're thinking, well, of course they're here. They smell death, like they tried to say. But in the movie, when a pack of Rottweilers show up and they all look like they're owned, and they've been taken
Mhm.
care of and stuff. That's 1,000 times scarier, I think.
Yeah.
Because that feels like there's something driving these animals, the force, whatever. Now,
Yep.
the other thing though is that usually in these movies, the dogs are the ones that sense the evil and they go the opposite direction.
Right, right.
Well, I
Yep.
did find that was so. I'm thinking, well, maybe they're supposed to be like hellhounds or
Yeah,
whatever,
likely.
but I did
Because
I did like the dogs.
yeah, and I like the dogs in the book um because the scene that really stuck with me with the dogs is when they started to rebury the bodies.
Yeah, that was a good touch. They didn't
Yeah.
because in the movie they don't go back. When they find the mother, the jackal, and the baby that's been murdered, his baby.
Yeah.
Um, they don't go back in the movie, but in the book it does, and it has them do the mournful cry, like they're
Mhm.
actually like at a funeral and stuff. I thought that's cool, but at that point, it could have been the Rottweilers doing it. That would have been 10 times freakier.
Yep.
Regular dogs doing that's 10 times worse than the other thing. But the thing I liked the most was that when he went in to check on the boy and the dog's eyes light up and it
Mhm.
turns out he's sitting there with the stuffed animals off to the side and then he's like, oh, I'm getting out of here after he told her to get rid of the dog.
Yeah.
I thought that was perfectly handled, and 10 times I think that's I mean German shepherds I guess could be scary if you're thinking about that Rottweiler, man, it looked like it was coming it was
Mm-hmm.
coming from hell, and that the way he shot that one. So I thought that was
Yeah.
a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. And we got here's the father here.
Did you
Um,
think that was weird too, though? All the changes in names and stuff. I mean, it's just based on. I mean, it's like it almost feels like he was tweaking it just so he'd have something different to write. But
I don't know. I don't think I've really it really threw me at all, the change in the names. Um, but I did find it weird that they gave him an Irish name and he was supposed to be an Italian priest.
right, and then also I read somewhere when I was trying to get some notes together that the and she was in the book the nanny because she turns out to be one of the other three that were at
Mm,
the birth.
yeah,
She is Irish, right? So
yeah,
it makes sense that he'd be Irish, but then, but like you said in the book, they really push that he's Italian.
yeah,
And the original priest, the one that's burned, the one that sends them on to find the bodies, he was Italian too, right?
yeah. Sapolito, or I
Yeah,
can't remember his last name. His name, yeah. I really liked the visual in the movie with that priest, um, because it coincided with what the Bible text had said about you lose your faith in God and lose your sight in your right eye and your
yeah.
right arm, and it was his right side um, that had was burned. So I thought that was pretty
I
cool.
also think it's funny that both of those guys, after basically getting us the Antichrist, were both trying to repent at the end and get their ticket punched to heaven. Like I
Yeah,
feel like if you're the reason the Antichrist is running around, you don't get a do-over. But that might just be me. Maybe I'm just
yeah,
not getting into the old forgiveness thing. But I
yeah,
thought it was I thought it was funny, man. These two, they're like, oh yeah, we're 100% into Satan and evil and all this other stuff. And then at the very end, they're like, well, just in case, I better go repent.
yeah,
So he goes
uh,
try and save. And I thought he was crazy as a loon, and he did a
yeah,
really good job of portraying that. And that's why the ambassador doesn't believe him the whole time
right,
because he comes across like this picture right here is perfect because
yep.
that's basically what he looks like the entire time. So I thought this guy was really good as the
Yeah,
as the prince.
I got a little annoyed not only with the book but all the movie with this character. I'm like, just like speak normal.
I know if you would just calm down and
Yeah,
present your case, which I get it though. I mean, he's riddled with cancer, he's high
he's
on morphine,
morphine. Yeah, yeah,
and he knows that he's effed up.
yeah,
He's carved 666 into his leg, and he's turned himself over to the devil, and he knows that when he dies soon, he's going to go to hell. And so I guess he's his passions are inflamed. He wants to get this going,
yeah,
but another thing, you shouldn't scream about drink his blood and
yep,
eat his body. And I know that's just normal communion stuff, but you can say you need to take communion. You don't
yep,
have to say the other stuff because the other stuff immediately makes you sound crazy when you're
yep.
screaming it. So
Hmm.
I thought, just take a step, man. Just take a deep breath. You'll be okay.
Yeah,
Um,
just bring it down a little bit. So I was kind of annoyed about that. Like, just come out and say what you're gonna say. Don't be like, making it a riddle, because of course he's not gonna believe you.
right.
But I
And
guess that's part of the whole thing.
yeah. And if he was Italian, and maybe he doesn't know English as well, then it makes more sense. But if he's Irish, then it doesn't make any sense at all. So as Father Brennan. So, but
Yeah,
as Tassone or whatever it is, Tassone or however you pronounce it, maybe he has a little, she struggles with the language, and that would make a little more sense too. But I would understand if he presented his case normal and it got ignored and then he went crazy. But no, he
yeah,
was full on crazy the whole time.
yeah. He
So
was full speed ahead crazy.
but very good, good character. I mean, it was a good. I thought I was more annoyed with the way they tried to write him off after he died, and
Hmm.
the photographers in his apartment taking pictures and taking his stuff because the police thought he was a crazy person, so
Yeah,
they just let a random journalist take the stuff. That to me didn't make any sense. That
yeah,
was hard to swallow.
Yeah. Oh, the police don't care. Just take his
especially
stuff.
especially when it's the character in the book, because Jennings in the book, like we've established, is a jerk. He rubs people the wrong way. He looks like a slob. The cops aren't going to just be like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, take whatever you want." At
Yeah.
least in the movie, he looks a little better, comes across as more professional. He
Yeah.
makes a point in the book to say, "I don't look professional. I'm not professional," to put people on edge so that I can get more realistic,
Yeah.
photographs, all that stuff. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought that was the one strain that felt the weirdest, the one they pulled when they were just like, oh well, the cops just let them have the diaries
Yeah.
and all this other stuff.
Yeah. They didn't even, which, he brings up to Thorne that thank God I took this because it was he died the day that he wrote in his diary that he was going to meet with you,
Right.
you know?
And the fact that the cops obviously didn't look at it at all and
Yeah.
just said, well, we're just going to say it's a freak accident and you guys do your thing and we're not going to look at anything. That seems, and I guess, bureaucracies, that happens and stuff. But wouldn't you think the church would take his belongings and not just
Hmm.
some random person? So
Yeah.
you would think that they would want to have protected it for the
But,
church at that
then you
point.
got to think though, he was not part of the church, didn't know who he was.
Yeah, that's true. Because he had already basically not been excommunicated, but he's been marked and it was hiding in plain sight, I guess, at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I enjoyed that character.
I did too. I thought he was a fun. Well, I don't know if he's fun, but I mean, he definitely served a purpose, and he added to the tension. Could
Yeah.
you? Because you could feel in the book and a little bit in the movie that Thorne was getting worn down with all the
Yeah.
crazy going on.
Yeah. And I especially liked with this character, when they described, because you could tell he was going to kind of be one to not want to do this anymore or stop the Antichrist because of the remorse that he had when he had to actually kill the baby again.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
and then I thought that was a good point too. Yeah,
yeah,
it shows that they're human, even
yeah,
though they're I guess evil devil worshippers.
yeah, because I don't think the Sapolito or whatever his name was, or one of the nuns
Yeah,
would
for
have
sure. Because I
like,
mean, one of them was the nanny. She
yeah,
was one of the ones
they
there. So
wouldn't have like hesitated or had like any
yeah,
kind of, because he was like, the only reason I killed it is because it was already damaged so bad
right. And not only that, though, I would assume that the other ones would have just left it to die naturally in the
in the
case.
box. Yeah,
Right. And so the fact that he took it out to end its suffering and all that stuff, I don't know. I mean, because then they go and tell more stories and all the terrible things that he did and stuff. But yeah, there's that little sliver of his past life. But then again, how was he introduced to the church? They basically took him and beat him until he
yeah,
accepted Christ into his life, and then that's how he started his ministry, was to go around doing the same thing to people.
yeah.
So it's just that was the only time where I felt like this might be a subtle dig at the church. But
Hmm.
it's not untrue. For every great story, there's always going to be one or two, skeletons in the closet. And of course, that's one of the ones that church has, is the way that they tried to change people. Although you don't expect that those stories to still be around in the 70s, whatever,
Yeah.
40s to 70s. You would think that would have been in the earlier days when they were doing all that crazy stuff.
Yep. All right. I think next we have the covers for the books. What struck me about all of the covers that you sent, is they're all similar color scheme, black and red
Yeah.
and white.
And don't you feel like that basically they just said, okay, we got these people designing the movie posters, so we're either going to use the same design as the movie poster or a similar design so that everybody thinks about our movie when they see the book and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I kind of got that vibe.
Yeah. I
I
just
think
wish
this is cool.
I think that I kind of wish they would have had the sixes in the clover leaf, because wasn't that like the big thing about Damien's birthmark? It was sixes in a clover leaf
Yeah,
pattern. And
yeah,
this they're kind of just like,
and the scar on the priest,
yeah,
it was done the same way. Um, which they didn't really describe it well enough in the movie. They made it sound like it was a birthmark on the priest in the
yeah,
movie, but in the book they say carved into his flesh.
Yeah,
So, which I thought was cool. A better designation, so you
yeah,
didn't get that feeling. I think this is the cover they used when they released it. This is the one I have on the ebook.
yeah,
I don't like it. It's
yeah. I'm not.
okay, but I mean, whatever. It's
Yeah,
just, it is what it is. You know what you're getting.
yeah, definitely. And then this one's really kind of just plain again. Uh,
Wasn't that kind of crazy? How,
yeah,
like you said, they just didn't, it's like they're not even trying.
yeah,
Even the Exorcist covers, at least there was always, at least there was one that really stood out. I didn't
yeah,
really see any here that stood out.
yeah,
I could have just not come across it, but these are the four that popped up the
yeah.
most.
And this is the one that I have. I have
That's my
that.
favorite. That's the
Yeah.
one that's my favorite. It reminds you of the kid of the movie. And I like the way that his shadow forms the upside down cross. I assume that's what that's supposed to be. It looks like it's just a cross.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was actually looking at this um
It
when you
feels like
because
it
on
should
the
be.
actual book you can't really see, it's really kind of dark, but on this image here it's lighter down where the cross is, and I'm like, that's kind of just like a regular cross.
Also, I have a question because on the front of this cover it says 2,000 years ago his birth was foretold. But in the book, we're told that he's actually the third.
Yeah,
So is it, I mean, it's like, are they just saying 2,000 years ago we were told that a Antichrist is coming? Or that they knew that there was going to be two that failed and he's the third? Or, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that they're trying to tell us. Because it felt like, I mean, the way that all the other stuff, if you ever look at the Antichrist or any of that kind of stuff, end of days, that kind of stuff, it's a specific time and it's supposed to be the one person. And so it was kind of interesting that they made references to two other times. And they did, the years don't even make sense. I wrote them down. 1092 and 1710 were the other 2 years where supposedly a baby was born. And then that family, the was it the Hottens?
Bugenhagens. Yeah,
They killed the baby. And that
yeah,
guy that gave him the knives is supposed to be the one that kills his family, is supposed to stop the Antichrist. I couldn't understand why he didn't go with the guy. In the book, he said, I stay here because it keeps me safe and keeps me alive.
right.
But I just got the impression in the movie and when he said that he's just a coward that doesn't want to fulfill his, whatever, his fate, however
Yeah,
you want
he
to say
seemed
it.
to be portrayed older in the book, because if you remember in the book, go see the old man,
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was a
and
pretty old looking dude when they found him in the movie too,
yeah, but not as, like, I would
but
say,
not decrepit. I see what you're saying.
decrepit.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
you're picturing like, and I kind of now am too. Well, I don't know who you're picturing, but now all of a sudden in my head, I'm thinking the first guy that played Dumbledore. In the first two Harry Potter movies
Oh,
before.
right, right, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that guy was on death's door. You could tell. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
was. He had that feel to him, that aura. Um, so yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like something like that. But do you think that he was supernatural in origin, and that's what was keeping him alive, being at that place, or do you think he just meant I don't want to go because I don't want to face the devil?
I don't think he was supernatural. I think he was underground because the
They're doing
demons
this.
couldn't get him in that place, because that was originally where, um I forget how they described it, but it was like a major archaeological.
Yeah, it was like a dig or something like Raiders of the Lost Ark
Yeah,
or something.
it was like the seat of Christianity or something like that,
Yeah,
um, where
because
it started.
they were in Jerusalem, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jerusalem is where they were.
So,
Yep.
but so we think that he thought that by being on holy ground he was okay. But I was like,
Yeah,
he almost sounded like it was keeping him alive.
yeah. And in the
Like
movie,
if he took a step outside, he would just die.
kind of like in the Last Crusade.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. The guy, the knight,
Yeah.
pick your
Um,
pick your gauntlet or
yeah, but the
whatever.
Bugenhagen in the movie, looked kind of like just like an archaeologist. He was like, "Oh, I'm just hanging out here because this is my, my
Right,
job."
yeah. And then, but he's like, okay, this is what you got to do. You got to stab the kid this whole time. Remember, he's not really a kid. He's a monster.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is your job. Get on the plane with the dude and go kill
Yeah.
the kid. And I did not like that at all, the way the movie handled that. I mean, up to that point, I thought the movie handled the dog better
Hmm.
by trapping the dog. That was smart. In the book, he just fights the dog off, and I was like, why would you even deal with a demon dog that you've already dealt with? You already know these dogs are lethal. They've
Right.
already torn them apart once. But in the movie, he gets in there, he gets the kid in the car, he drives away, and immediately a cop's like, "That's the ambassador. We need to chase him,"
Yeah.
which made no sense
Yeah.
because
Why? Like,
he even if you catch him, he has diplomatic immunity. I assume that's what they do over there. So
yeah.
what are you going to do? Lecture him? He's not going to listen. I mean, he didn't do anything to make you think immediately there was any danger other than the fact that he was driving fast.
Yeah. He
They
could
didn't
have
even
been
have
like,
him going crazy. It wasn't like crazy driving, it was just fast. And he's
yeah.
like, that's the ambassador. And immediately the cops are following.
Yeah.
He handled
So,
it so much better, where he's dragging the kid. And the fact that Damien doesn't put up a fight ever
yeah.
he just takes it the whole time. In the thing, he's like when he attacks the mom. He's gouging his eye out, he's scratching his face.
Hmm.
He's gaining strength while the father's fading away. And then the guy pulls him out of the car in front of the church, and there's a neighbor or somebody there screaming, "Stop," calling the police. It made more sense for
Yeah.
that than it did the way they had it. Because not only that, so he drags a kid into the church in the movie, and the cops run in with the guns drawn. Again, I mean, what did he do? He dragged a kid into a church. None of that equals to I need to have my weapon drawn and I'm going after him.
Yeah. And what? So the cop that was at the house immediately
I,
goes to follow him with no indication that there's anything wrong. Like, if
for the
like,
Marine,
because he said there was an international incident or something, it was mentioned in the movie. But the guy was just driving fast. He knew whose car that was. He
yeah.
clearly could see that it was the ambassador.
Uh,
And he's like, now I got to call for backup, and I call these other people.
yeah. Yeah, it did. And the only thing I can think of right now was it a military police officer? But that
I
still
don't.
doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would he
Yeah,
come in with the gun drawn? I would assume.
and it wasn't a military policeman.
No, it wasn't. It was, and that's the other thing. I was always under the impression that the British didn't run around with guns.
And that's a point I was going to bring up because in both the book and the movie, he gets killed by a gunshot from a cop.
Right, and that doesn't make much sense. Although maybe they changed. No, because I mean, I have to go back and look, but I always assume that, or I've seen that they get it. They have the guns like signed out for a specific task, and then they have to bring them back. They don't
Yeah,
just have them. It's not like
have
here.
them. Yeah, and maybe the
So
guy who had the gun was like a higher rank
right,
or
which
something.
still made me think. That's what made me think military police was that maybe
Yeah,
it was a cop, a U.S. like a guard or something. But I was like, at no other point in the movie did they have military guards at the
yeah. And
embassy
in the
house
movie,
because
they were in the movie they were doing something else.
right.
They were doing
Yeah,
some
yeah.
other
They were
kind
always
of.
guarding him at the embassy, but never at home,
Mm,
right? Because at the embassy, you had to go to a separate building, and that's when they had the Marines there. Marines don't go to your house, and
right,
they would have no reason to not live off of outside of the embassy because we're allies with Britain. So that doesn't make
right.
sense. Yeah, so the ending doesn't make any sense. Now, I will tell you this: in the movie, they shoot him, he's dead. Fine, we know the funeral. I hated that he tried to milk it in the book for the last 3 or 4 pages where you're given, they said this great son of this
Yeah,
blah blah blah, but they're just talking about the ambassador and his wife getting killed. Also, that was the other thing in the movie when he goes to the hospital, nobody ever suggests that she tried to kill herself. She
yeah,
in the book they go and say, oh no, they saw she jumped. And so then you get the idea that it wouldn't seem weird for her to jump out of the hospital room. And
yeah,
also it wouldn't seem weird for him to think it because he knows she's going to the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist has said in the movie he said he wasn't worried about her. In the book, he said he was scared that she had suicidal thoughts, and that's why
Right.
they should have the abortion. Um, so I don't know. That's the one little thing I thought he handled. I don't know. I didn't like that because I mean, if you say she jumped,
Yeah.
there's no reason for him to think anything. Even when she says, "Don't let him kill me," because
Right.
if you think she tried to commit suicide, you know she's been at the psychiatrist. His natural inclination is to believe that she did this and
Yeah.
that this is just from that experience. But the fact that if she just had an accident and then she says this after all the other things she said, I feel like it would plant a bigger seed of doubt in his head
Yeah.
because he should immediately start thinking something's up. And also, doesn't it seem weird they're like the nanny and the boy saw her jump, you know,
Yeah.
and he's already got misgivings. You know, in the movie, I thought they handled it much better.
Yeah. Um, I wish they would have brought more up with Greer, the psychiatrist. I wish
Yeah,
they would have had that more prevalent in the movie.
yeah. In the
Um,
movie, you would think she isn't having any issues, really.
yeah.
Just with a little bit that she said, you know, she says a little bit. You think, okay, all this sounds natural, you know.
Yeah.
But
And
then in the book, she's really struggling in the book.
yeah. And another weird thing in the book, excuse me, is she said she called the hospital to book an abortion. So
I
this
think
is the
that,
70s.
yeah, but it is also still Europe, so I don't know.
Yeah. But I would think, um, like back then, wouldn't she have needed permission from her husband?
You know, I don't know. Actually, yes, I think so because I think that's what the doctor was trying to get was
Yeah,
permission
was saying
from
you
the
need to agree,
sign
give the
off on
permission.
this.
But
Yeah.
why would she just be like, I'm gonna call and book an abortion, you know?
Well, maybe she just assumed that he would agree. Maybe
Yeah.
he did. She didn't know that he was. He didn't know. She didn't know that he had already been told by the priest that the baby would be terminated. And
Yeah.
so I don't. I actually think he would have agreed without any issue to save her sanity and her stuff if everything else was normal.
Hmm.
But the fact that he thought if they did this, this puts them on the path to all the other bad things the priest said.
That are gonna
You
happen.
know,
Yeah.
he kind of, yeah, so he allowed superstition at that moment to take over while the rest of the time he's fighting superstition.
Yep.
It was kind of a weird back and forth. And I think a character that was younger, like he is in the book, it makes more sense, you know, for him to struggle more. I don't know. I don't know if it feels like Gregory Peck would have been more either dug in 100% or maybe more open to um,
Yeah.
stuff just because he's been around longer. I always, you know, sometimes it feels like the longer you're here, the more you're open to different possibilities and different points of view and things of that nature.
Right.
Because I mean, but you know, and I say that, and then they don't discuss it in the movie, but in the book, he is confronted by a communist who is yelling at
Yep.
him and talking about the differences between the two of them, and he actually listens. And even though he is a little, I think he probably would have tore the kid a new one if he hadn't had the priest take his mind off of everything.
Right.
He just you know says, "Oh yeah, you're right, and I need to work on that and be better at
Hmm.
it." That felt like something that does kind of feel like a younger guy too at that point. So maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No.
So,
No.
but
But
yeah, so there's all these weird, you know, like I said, we see Gregory Peck, and so then you're thinking a different, just a whole different mindset, you know, from
yeah.
the character in the book. I really, and that's probably why they cast who they cast when they remade it, because it seems like they went younger with those characters and older with the other guys. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But all in all, both the movie and the book were quite enjoyable.
yeah, I really did enjoy it. I mean, I know I was the reason we ended up recording this a little bit late because I hadn't caught up with it yet, but I had been putting my homework assignment off. But I did enjoy it, and I sat there and as I was reading it, I was thinking, you know, this from beginning to end, the book it does read really well. It
Yeah.
flows well. It answers the questions that the movie,
Hmm.
you know, tries to gloss over, and I kind of enjoyed the opportunity to see what the writer originally thought, because I really do
Hmm.
believe that he used the original script that he wrote and all the stuff that kind of probably got cut out of the movie. I think he did use that to get us to that point, where the story is an A to Z kind of story. Um,
Yeah.
and not to complain, because Richard Donner's a great director, and I thought he did a really good job. It's a very entertaining movie, and I did you find the movie scary? Because I don't think I found the movie really that scary.
No, I didn't find it scary, and it's funny when I was watching it, I kind of was almost like, I don't know if this is really even a horror,
Which maybe go
you
back to that
know?
point I said where we had this small window in the 70s where these quote unquote horror movies are getting all this acclaim, and maybe it's because at the time they would be horror. I mean, the child, the devil's
Yeah.
child coming, but now after all the stuff we've seen in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, we go back and look at it and it's quaint.
Yeah. And there
But
was, because there was like no supernatural besides the blemishes on the photos. There was
right,
nothing supernatural.
which goes back to that thing I read with the director saying he wanted it to make you think, me in your head, maybe they're crazy and this isn't happening,
Yeah.
which is a smart approach because at the time it seems like everything was supernatural. And we watched, Amityville, we watched The Exorcist, and it's 100% supernatural. And
Yeah. I mean,
so,
I guess there was the storm when
yeah,
Brennan or Tessone was killed.
now that
Um,
was very, that I don't know England weather patterns. It did come across to me as a crazy occurrence, like not normal. So yeah,
right.
to me that seems supernatural. And
But
I
the but Jennings' death was totally in the movie anyways. You totally saw the guy getting out of the car and his hip hitting the lever. So
right.
that
And then
didn't
so you're
seem,
supposed to think, well, maybe the supernatural caused it, but we don't know one
yeah.
way or the other. But
Yeah,
I yeah, I didn't think, but the score is amazing. And
hmm
that lends to the tension and the
hmm
fright. I felt like
yeah.
that was more uh, I don't want to say scary, but
Yeah.
it was the horror element that really ties it all together, and it allowed your mind to paint the picture of some of the stuff that they weren't showing us.
Yeah, it kind of like the movie kind of seemed to me, I don't know if you've ever read his books, James Rollins.
Yeah, I
He's
love
kind of
James
like
Rollins.
so yeah, he's like the Bone Labyrinth is, got some religious um aspects to it where they're trying to find these artifacts, and
Right.
so it kind of like read to me like a thriller more
Yeah.
than, or I shouldn't say read because the book definitely read horror to me.
Yeah,
um
def.
but the movie kind of seemed like I was watching a James Rollins book.
Which is
It's
probably why it did so well and why it
Yeah.
was successful. It was because it could draw in all kinds of audiences and not just horror audiences.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed that they left out the whole scene with the dog where the dog got impaled on the fence and the
Yeah,
other
they could
dogs
have.
started eating him. I was like, ooh, here comes the scene with the dogs. I wonder what they did.
Yeah,
So I was a little bummed with that. But the point you said about them looking like normal dogs was way more terrifying than in the book. They're like these salivating, mean
yeah.
looking.
It made me think of oh no, I can't. Oh, Resident Evil.
Hmm.
Those kind of dogs. Not
Yeah.
not to that extreme, but they, that kind of idea.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
you look at that and you're like, okay, this is something out of a horror movie. You know, the other one, it's not even Cujo level because they don't have rabies, they're not, foaming at the mouth or anything. It's just a pack of dogs, and that can be scary in its own
Oh
right.
yeah.
The stuff they were doing, the way they handled the dogs, the way that one dog protected them, yeah, I thought that was a really cool aspect to the movie. But yeah, the movie itself, no, it's not. It's definitely not a scary movie. Definitely, I thought was a tense and a horror novel.
Yeah. Yeah. But did I like the book better? I think so.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
Also, I think that it might be my favorite read so far that we've done in this.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think it's my
Amityville,
second.
Amityville and the Omen are kind of fighting
Yeah,
each other for first and
yeah,
second.
yeah,
They're the most
exactly.
entertaining.
Yeah, yep. Amityville was really good. The book was really good for me. So I think tied for first is Omen and Amityville.
Yeah, and then it just pushes the rest down. So
Yeah, yeah. But great movie, great book. Definitely worth a read and a watch. And definitely don't think because it's a novelization that, just reading the book would be sufficient. I mean, I think it would be if you don't really want to watch the movie, but I personally am glad that I watched the movie and read the book
yeah,
because it gives you different perspective on the different the additions and subtractions.
yeah, you definitely get a deep dive into all their heads, which you don't really get in the movie.
Yeah.
So that's a nice bonus.
Now it's time for our not Stephen King book of the week. The book that I have chosen this week is Buried by Sian Claven. Sian Claven is an author who is from Johannesburg, South Africa. And I actually heard about this book um, through Carver Pike's first chapter freak show. I guess him and Sian were are really good friends, and he featured her book on first chapter freak show. So I picked it up and I read it, and it was fantastic. It is a haunted house book. It's about a group of um, paranormal investigators that do like a show. So kind of like ghost hunters. Okay. And they go to this underground mansion. So it's pretty cool. And this under the Jackson House, I think it's called, has this like sordid history. Um, and it's like I said, it's completely underground, and they go in. They're only allowed to go in at a certain time, and they take like ropes and tie them off so that they go down different hallways. It was just very fascinating how the house was described. Because how do you describe a house that's built underground? Like, and especially a mansion. It wasn't like, oh, there's like 3 rooms. It was like a full-on mansion with like a pool and everything built underground. So I thought it was cool that it was like about ghost hunters, and it's about them going in to film an episode on this particular haunted house. And then, of course, things go wrong, and you've got some very aggressive ghosts that come out, and then a very good twist ending. So yeah, this was
That's awesome.
yeah,
It's an
it was
awesome idea.
yeah, it was the most unique haunted house story I had ever read. Um, so it's definitely worth checking out. We will have a link to it in the description. Yeah, Buried by Sharon Claven. And if she watches this, I hope I said your name right. Um,
Yeah, I have no clue, so I was excited just to have you pronounce it. So now I have an idea.
yeah, well,
Hopefully,
I
it's in
saw
my
her
book.
because we're friends on Facebook. I saw her post a pronunciation of it. And when Carver was talking about her, he said Sean or something. But then I saw her post a pronunciation. And ever since then, I've been trying to say it as Sharn, which is the way it looked. So please, Sharn, let me know if I said your name right, because I'm sure she'll watch once I tag her in the when we release this episode.
Yeah, everybody should also subscribe to Carver's thing because it's
Yep.
really cool. The fact that he gives so many amazing indie horror writers, that little 15-minute of
Yep.
fame where people can hear what the first chapters are like and see if it's a book that they'd be interested in. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely check out this book.
yep, links below.
Yep. And thank you for joining our double feature on the Omen. Um, and let us know if you have any comments. You can email us at what'sintheboxhorror@gmail.com. Maybe there's something you'd like us to cover on the show. Feel free to send us some suggestions.
Yeah, we're gonna jump into the Sentinel because of a suggestion, and it ties in with what we're doing anyway, so that's perfect.
Yep.
So we do listen, and we're always eager to try new things. So
Yep.
let us
Yeah, I
know.
believe that was Tim Eagle that suggested that. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.